Welcome to our last book this week about worms. This is a book to read with a worm, is the name of it. And it promises that if you can find a word, then you can be a biologist. Please note this book is equally entertaining with or without a worm friend. But if you do have a worm around, then you can go ahead and listen to this book with them. It is written by Jody Wheeler Toppin and illustrated by Margaret McCartney. Oh, it has a dedication for Violet and Jack. For my two sweetie pies, Jeff and Felix. Dear reader, there's nothing like the excitement of a backyard worm hunt. We hide in the soil like buried treasure. When you find me, please remember that I am a living thing. Treat me gently and don't do anything to hurt me. When we're done reading this book, put me back where you found me. Thanks a bunch. Worm. Stop. To read this book, you are going to need a worm. If you don't have one, go outside to find one. Look for a damp, leafy spot and sift the leaf layer for a hint of wiggle. Or grab a trowel, scoop a pile of dirt, and crumble it gently in your hand. Or try pulling up a few large weeds, roots and all. Some worms hide in a tangled root ball. We'll also need water, paper towels, a flashlight, a bottle, a rubbing alcohol, a cotton swab, a sandwich bag, a sheeted paper, a clear plastic bottle, and aluminum foil. Well, you can get those or not. You decide. Don't let me dry out. I'll suffocate. Make your worm comfortable. Pour some water on a paper towel and settle your new friend on top. Worms don't have lungs. They get oxygen through their wet skin. You say it. Run your finger across your worm's back. Feel the bump, bump, bump as you slide across the rings. Is there a fat band over some of the rings? This band is called the clitellum. If your worm has one, then it's an adult. Otherwise, it's probably still a kid. Clitellum or clitellum. That's how you say that. Feel free to give me a name. Just don't expect me to come when called. Find your worm's head. If you have an adult, this is easy. The head is the end closest to the clitellum. If you have a kid, you'll have to watch it move. Worms usually crawl head first. Hold up your worm face to face. Not much of a face, is it? Can you find eyes? What about a nose? Set your worm on the damp paper towel and shine a flashlight right at its head. Look at it go. Your worm doesn't have eyes, so it can't see shapes or colors, but it does have sensors that tell it light from dark. And it seems like worms prefer the dark. Bright, sunny places are filled with birds, mice, and snakes that would love to gobble up your worm. You can't blame your worm for preferring the dark. Home, dark home. Open up a bottle of rubbing alcohol and take a small sniff. There's a strong smell. Can your worm smell it? Soak the end of a cotton swab in alcohol and hold it near, but not touching your worm's head. So only do this if you have a parent to help you or a parent around to make sure that everything's okay. Instead of a nose, your worm has smell detectors sprinkled across its face. Worms use the detectors to avoid chemicals that might harm them, like rubbing alcohol. The detectors also help them figure out if something good is good to eat. And they don't think that rubbing alcohol is good to eat because it's not. And they'll probably pull away from it. Take another look at your worm's face. That hole is its mouth. Hey, did it just stick its tongue out at you? That's not really a tongue. Your worm has an organ called a pharynx just inside its mouth. The pharynx sucks up soil, dead leaves, and rotting plants to eat. In some worms, the pharynx pokes through the mouth to grab food. That's pharynx or pharynx. Some worms keep their pharynx in their mouth, but still does just a fine job of pulling in tasty leaves. Okay, it says slip your worm into a sandwich bag, but don't seal it. You aren't taking a worm for lunch. Shine the flashlight through the back of the bag. Ta-da! You can see your worm's digestive system. The dark clumps are your worm's most recent meal. And that's true. You can see right through their thin skin. And here are all the parts of their digestive system, from their mouth to esophagus, all the way down to their anus where the castings come out, and we've talked about those. If you watch for a few moments, you might see poop slip out the rear end. Farmers and gardeners call worm poop castings. Castings are great for plants. This is the digestive system of a nightcrawler worm. Some of us have our organs in a different order. Take your worm out of the sandwich bag and lay it back on the wet paper towel. Gently tap it on the tail to get it moving, and then try to copy its movements with your pointer finger. If I'm not moving, I might be overwhelmed. Wrap me in a paper towel and let me rest for a minute. Phew! Your finger doesn't make a very good worm, does it? You have bones in your fingers, so it can only bend at the joints where the bones meet up. Worms don't have bones. They're muscles attached to their skin, and they can bend at each segment or ring in their body. And here's a worm on the move. A worm on the move is constantly changing its shape. One moment, its front end looks like a short, fat sausage. Then it stretches out like a spaghetti noodle. If you looked at your worm through a microscope, you would see that each segment has a few thin, stiff bristles called setae. Your worm digs the setae on its front segments into the soil or wet paper towel. The front setae hold on tight while your worm drags the back segments forward. Then it holds on the back setae so it can push the front out long and thin. That's pronounced, CT. Looks like I've been mispronouncing it wrong all week. CT are hard to see, but you can hear them. Roll a piece of paper into a cone shape so it looks like a megaphone. Set your worm inside the fat end of the cone and hold the small end to your ear. Sit still and quiet. Do you hear scratching in the tube? It comes from the CT. Your worm is trying, without much luck, to anchor itself on the smooth paper. Man, I gotta get a grip. CT don't work well on paper, but they're perfect for crawling through soil. Give your worm some dirt and let it spend the entire night exploring. Take a clean, clear plastic bottle and have an adult cut away the top. Fill the bottle with soil and leaf bits. Welcome your wiggly friend to the hotel worm and cover the entire container with aluminum foil to block out the light. Try a bottle from a single-serve drink. You'll be able to see more of the tunnels. We love special treats like apple peels and old lettuce. You can even invite 3 or 4 friends to spend the night with me. It's a sleepover. Make sure you cover the top of the bottle too. Don't worry, we'll have enough oxygen to last the night. We don't need as much air as you do. If your dirt is dry, add a few tablespoons of water to keep us comfy. In the morning, peel back the aluminum foil and check out your worm's tunneling masterpiece. See how far you can trace the tunnels around the bottle. Peek inside the tunnels. Do you see castings? Worms often tunnel by eating a path for themselves. I have a great taste for interior decor. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. It's time for your worm to go home. Take the bottle back to the place where you found your worm. Dump the dirt out, worm and all. Before your worm slips away, bid it goodbye, wish it well, and thank it for helping you read this book. So long. Thanks for taking good care of me. Oh, I think that was probably my favorite of all the books we read this week. And there's many interesting things you can do. And there's other questions about worms. So if you have time to go ahead and get on Epic and look at them, you can. And there's some more resources, but no glossary or index. If you look over here, though, there are more books like this. So if you enjoyed learning about worms and you'd like to learn about other animals, there are a lot on Epic. Have a happy Friday.